What's up everyone, welcome to another episode. Today I want to talk to you about these Velo 6 Generation 2 wheels from Elitewheels, because I've been riding them for a while now, and I want to let you know if these are worth considering in case you're looking for a set of new wheels. There are a bunch of positives, a bunch of things that are really standing out with those wheels. Also a couple of things that maybe aren't so great, but let's get through these one by one. Let's start with this. So I think this is by far the loudest hub I've ever ridden so far, and for me, kind of a good thing. So if you run them and try them at home, it's actually super loud. It's not so bad when you're outside and you have all the noise from the streets and so on, but you definitely won't need a bell if you're riding these wheels. Like these ones are having a 50-tooth ratchet system in there. So also with 50-tooth you get like some very nice engagements once you're getting out of the saddle. There's very little move from your pedals when it comes to the moment and the angle of engagement. So that is also another side benefit as well. So if you're a person who's looking for a very loud wheel set, I think you can pretty much like stop the video here and then just go for those wheels, and I think you won't be disappointed. But if you want to know more about these, let's dig into the second topic. So as I mentioned in the intro, this is the second generation of those wheels, which means there must have been a first generation as well. And I've seen the first generation got some mixed reviews when it came to lateral stiffness. It was very easy to push the rim left and right. This can cause disc rubbing and can cause tire rubbing depending on how much clearance you actually have there for your tires once you're getting out of the saddle and you start moving left and right. So something that you really want to avoid when looking for a wheel set. But I'm happy to report, with this wheel set, you don't really have that issue. Like, they're laterally very stiff, I would say, comparable to most of my other wheels that I'm riding with carbon spokes. I was looking at the documentation from Elitewheels. They say something of like over 90% improved lateral stiffness, so I think that already means a lot. And when it comes to that side of things, and that was your worry because you've seen some reviews from the previous generation, that's I think that issue is gone. And where is all this improved stiffness coming from? On one hand, it is coming from the layup, the carbon layup, especially in the hub area and where the spokes are pretty much coming out to the rim, but then also from the shape of the spokes. So they are way more targeting, of course, aerodynamics on one side, but stiffness on the other side. And it seems like that plan worked out quite nicely for them. Another upside with riding a wheel set like this that actually doesn't have like those traditional spokes is it's never going to get out of true. I mean, there's nothing to tension, there is no tension to be lost anywhere, so this is one advantage. But another advantage is that if you look at the tire from the top, the spokes are pretty much completely hidden behind the tire, which also means that there's going to be like less turbulences happening, because when you look at a regular wheel set, you have spokes kind of like poking out towards a rather wide hub. Here, that's not the case because there's a lot of stiffness already coming from all the material here. So that adds to aerodynamics, and I can tell you these wheels are fast at the right conditions. I'm going to get to that in a second. So I think if you're into like doing triathlons, then this might be a very interesting wheel set to look at, because I think you can run it easily on a TT setup as well as in road setup like I was running it so far. One more positive is also that as this is a complete carbon design, there is very little flex in the system. So if you put power down, you really just go. Like, the power goes pretty much right on the street, at least with the power that I'm kind of pushing down, which is not that much, but still, I can still feel it. So especially if you're coming from something like a steel spoke wheel set, this difference is going to be very obvious, like from the moment you take off from the first red light. And then talking about red lights, looks and people that are approaching me or talking to me while I'm on a red light or while I'm at the coffee stop, I think it just levels up the look of a bike, like especially in this kind of setup where you have a more traditional looking frame with these, for me personally, more modern and very futuristic looking wheels. I know some people know these kind of designs from the past and for them they are more retro looking. For me, they're very futuristic. It is, I think, a little bit of a love and hate kind of thing, like you're either on the I really dislike them side or you really love them. I'm luckily more on the I love them side, and I'm kind of like happy that I didn't have any of those 5 or 6 spoke wheel sets for a very long time, and now I'm lucky enough to have two very different ones. I'm gonna get to the comparison in a bit as well, but yeah, I really like that look. For me, it somehow really levels up, particularly that bike. But it's also not all sunshine with this wheel set. So there are a couple of things that are not super bad. I just want to flag them so that you're aware in case you're considering getting those wheels. So first of all, as I mentioned, or as you know, this is a full carbon wheel set. It comes with the nice stiffness when it comes to acceleration, but that also has its downside. There are more on the harsher side. There isn't really that much that can flex and absorb harshness. On a bike like this, on the Bossy, which is a titanium frame, in the bum area, the frame, I think, does pretty good job with absorbing a lot of those vibrations, but in the front end you still feel it because this is a carbon fork, so like there isn't like too much flex in there either to compensate for road harshness. So you're definitely gonna feel it, especially when you're coming from something like a steel spoked wheel set. You're definitely gonna feel it. I have to say, the rides that I've been doing so far, it is for me comparable with a very stiff carbon spoked wheel set, so it's not that much worse than it, but I mean, you still feel it if you compare it to a steel spoke wheel set. So depending on where you're coming from or what's important for you, this is something just to be aware of. Also, unfortunately, these wheels, I wouldn't say, they're not the lightest ones. And of course, that also has to do with their price point. I mean, the price point, I gotta say here, in comparison to the competition that's out there on the market, it is, yeah, it is a very, very interesting wheel set, especially when you're going for kind of like the looks of it or the aerodynamic benefits of it. I also think that the weight comes with a little bit of inertia, like you feel even if you stop pedaling for a little bit, I feel like the bike isn't right away stopping or slowing down. Like that weight kind of carries a little bit of inertia with it. But of course, when you're taking off from a red light, you feel that it is a little bit more mass that you kind of have to put in motion in the beginning. So not a showstopper. I think also like the difference to competition wheel sets is like 300-400 grams, which sounds like a lot, depending on what you put your priorities on. This could be a lot, but I think for some people who are, for example, coming from a metal wheel set and not already a carbon wheel set, that might already be in the same ballpark or actually even lighter than your wheel set that you're currently riding. And then the last thing, it has to do with the shapes of the spokes and the rim itself. I mean, it is a 50mm deep rim, and also the spokes are actually quite wide. So I was riding here in Berlin one day when it was actually quite windy at our airport, or closed down airport up here. And when side winds hit you, you really feel them. So you definitely need to be aware of that. I would compare it more to the feeling of maybe riding like a 60 or 65mm wheel set. Especially with this one, I particularly felt the side winds. It was also a wind-heavy day, I gotta say. But still, with some other wheels, like for example with the XeNTiS ones, I didn't have that issue. Also, I mean, they're a little bit narrower, but the design of the spokes is also quite a bit different. While back then in that video I mentioned that these are the first wheels where I feel that side winds really just don't exist. Here, that's definitely not the case. Here, for this wheel set, side winds definitely exist, and I think you should be aware of it. And then just talking about comparison, because I had a bunch of people already writing me that they would want to understand what the difference is in ride experience. These wheels, which are very budget friendly, I gotta say, in comparison to the XeNTiS High X SL wheels, which are not that budget friendly, and are a multiple of the price of these Elitewheels ones. The difference here is one, of course, weight is different. They're, I think, around 400 grams lighter than the Elitewheels ones, but comes at a significant price increase. And the other main one that I noticed was actually this being prone to side winds. Like, while with the XeNTiS ones, as I mentioned in the review video there, side winds somehow didn't really exist. Here they do. But other than that, I think the side wind thing is maybe the major topic. If this is something that you're fine with, this is a great wheel set to go for. It is a fun ride. They are fast, they look great, and price performance, as with pretty much all Elitewheels wheels, is yeah, pretty much at the top. There's one thing that I would wish for, because I know that Elitewheels has their entry kind of like more budget-friendly line, which I think they call Marvel, and they label them with the Elitewheels logo on there, but they also have their more high-end drive line, which is more expensive, still fantastic price performance ratio if you compare it to the competition, but also most of the time significantly lighter than their regular Marvel counterparts. So if they would create a drive version of these, like get them lighter, potentially maybe rework the design of the spokes a little bit, or just make the rim a little bit narrower, like get it to 30 millimeters or 35. I guess that would also help with a side wind kind of thing. I would be very, very interested in checking those out. Who knows if they're gonna come out or not? I have no idea. I haven't talked or I haven't got any information about this. It's just something that I would really wish for. So if you're interested in any kind of like those Elitewheels wheels, check out my discount code down in the description below. And I hope that you enjoyed this little episode. If you did, consider hitting that like button. Also consider subscribing, because I know a lot of you are not subscribers yet, but you're still here and watching. And if you have any questions towards these wheels, or you want me to cover a couple of more aspects when it comes to comparing them to the XeNTiS ones, and also let me know down in the comments below if you're more on the I love this kind of look side of things, or if you're more on the I hate this look side of things. Would be interesting to see where the majority of you are sitting. And with that, as always, I say thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.